The line we don't cross. New York City didn't care that it was Valentine's week. It was 7:42 a.m. and Midtown was already roaring. Taxis honking, delivery trucks blocking lanes, commuters clutching coffee like it was life support. Inside the glass tower of Hellbrook and Pierce Consulting, however, things were polished, controlled, professional, and today slightly decorated. A bowl of red-wrapped chocolates sat at reception. Someone from HR had taped paper hearts near the elevator bank. A small sign on the internal employee app read, "Valentine's Week celebration. Today is Hug Day. Spread warmth professionally." Most employees rolled their eyes, except Olivia Carter. She stood in front of the elevator doors, adjusting the sleeve of her blazer. 26, junior marketing analyst, ambitious, smart enough to know she didn't belong in the junior category much longer, and nervous. Not about Hug Day, about him. The elevator chimed. When the doors opened on the 28th floor, Daniel Hayes was already there. Corner office, senior partner. 38, calm authority wrapped in tailored charcoal suits. The kind of man who didn't raise his voice, and didn't need to. He was standing near the glass wall of the conference room, looking over the city like it belonged to him. "Morning, Olivia," he said without turning around. Her heart did something stupid. "Morning, Mr. Hayes." He turned then. Slight smile. Measured. Controlled. "Daniel," he corrected gently. "We've had this conversation." She swallowed. "Right, Daniel." There was always that slight shift when she said his name, a flicker in his eyes, gone as quickly as it came. They had been working closely for 3 months now. Late presentations, strategy sessions that stretched into 9 p.m., coffee refills that turned into quiet conversations about life outside the office. Nothing inappropriate, nothing physical, just a tension neither of them acknowledged. Until today. He gestured toward the presentation deck open on the table. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." The client pitch went flawlessly. Olivia handled analytics with confidence. Daniel led the room with precision and charm. After the clients left, one of the associates grinned. "Guess we're celebrating early. Hug Day victory hug?" Laughter rippled around the table. Olivia forced a polite smile. Daniel didn't. "Let's keep celebrations professional," he said evenly. The room quieted. But when everyone filtered out, leaving just the two of them, the air shifted. "You did well," he said softly. "Thank you." Silence. New York glittered behind him through the glass wall. Then she said it, half joking, half not. "So, no Hug Day exception for top performance?" The second it left her mouth, she wished she could take it back. His jaw tightened just slightly. "You know why that's not a good idea." Yes, of course, I was kidding. But she wasn't, and he knew it. There was something unspoken between them, not just attraction, but comfort, a strange emotional familiarity that had built quietly over late nights and shared stress. He stepped closer to the table. "Olivia," he said gently, "there are lines." Her chest tightened. "I know." He studied her face like he was memorizing it, and for a brief, reckless second, neither of them moved. Then his phone buzzed. The sound shattered the moment. He glanced down. His expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. "Excuse me," he said. He turned slightly away as he answered. "Yes?" Pause. Olivia pretended to organize papers, but she couldn't stop listening. "No, I didn't forget," he said, tone quieter now. Another pause. "I'll handle it." His voice wasn't cold. It was careful. When he ended the call, he remained still for a second before turning back. "Everything okay?" she asked. He nodded once. Yes, but his eyes told a different story. At 6:15 p.m., the office had mostly emptied. Olivia was still at her desk when she heard his voice from the doorway. "You're still here." She looked up, finishing projections. "You can email us in the morning." "I'd rather not." He studied her for a moment. "You don't always have to prove yourself." She smiled faintly. "I know." Another silence. The lights in the office were dim now, city skyline glowing through the windows. He stepped inside her cubicle area, closer than usual. "I meant what I said earlier about lines." "I know you did. But," he added, voice softer now, "that doesn't mean it's easy." Her chest tightened. "I know." He studied her face like he was memorizing it, and for a brief, reckless second, neither of them moved. Then his phone buzzed. The loudness shattered the moment. Both of them froze. It was probably cleaning staff, probably, but neither of them moved until the sound passed. She exhaled slowly. "This is complicated." "Yes," he said. She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time she noticed something on his desk behind him earlier that day. A framed photo. A woman. Brunette. Elegant. Confident smile. She hadn't asked before, but she knew. "You're married," she said softly. He didn't look away. "Yes." The word landed between them like a weight. "I figured," she added quickly. "I just never wanted to assume. It's not something I discuss at work." "Why?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told her everything. "It's complicated," he said finally. She almost laughed at the irony. "That seems to be the theme." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare break in his composed demeanor. "My wife and I," he started, then stopped. Olivia didn't push, but she felt the shift, felt the crack in the polished surface. Before he could continue, the elevator dinged loudly from down the hall. Both of them turned instinctively. It was late, too late for visitors. The security desk usually called before sending anyone up after hours. Footsteps, not the soft shuffle of cleaning staff. He frowned. "Were you expecting someone?" she asked. "No." The footsteps grew closer, measured, confident. He straightened, and for the first time since she'd known him, Daniel Hayes looked unsettled. The hallway lights flicked fully on as someone approached the glass entrance to their floor. Olivia's stomach tightened. Through the frosted glass, a silhouette appeared. Female. Tall. Still. Then the door opened and the woman from the photo stepped inside. Elegant black coat, heels echoing against marble. Her eyes scanned the office calmly, until they landed on Daniel, then on Olivia. Silence swallowed the room. "Daniel," the woman said smoothly. His voice was steady but lower than usual. "Emily, what are you doing here?" Emily tilted her head. "Oh, and what place would that be?" The city lights blinked behind them. 3 people, 1 office, and a line that had just been crossed, whether anyone admitted it. Olivia realized something in that moment. This wasn't just attraction. This wasn't just professional tension. This was about to become a war she never meant to enter. Emily removed her gloves slowly. "Don't stop on my account," she said sweetly. "I'm very curious what exactly qualifies as working late these days." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Emily?" Olivia stepped back instinctively. "I can leave," she said quickly. Emily smiled again. "Oh no," she said softly. "Please stay." And that was the moment Olivia understood. Hugday wasn't going to be about romance. It was going to be about consequences.
The wife who knows more. The silence after Emily's words wasn't awkward. It was calculated. Olivia felt it immediately. This wasn't a jealous wife barging in blindly. This was someone who had walked into the room already aware of exactly what she might find. Daniel's voice remained controlled. "Emily, this is not appropriate." Emily let out a soft laugh as she set her purse on the conference table. "Appropriate," she repeated lightly. "We're talking about appropriate now?" Her eyes moved to Olivia again, not hostile, not dramatic, assessing. Olivia straightened her shoulders. If this was going to explode, she refused to look guilty when she technically wasn't. "Mrs. Hayes," Olivia said professionally, "we were just finishing up projections for tomorrow's client." "Emily," she interrupted smoothly, "please, Mrs. Hayes makes me sound like I should be holding a martini and hosting fundraisers." Daniel stepped closer to Olivia, subtle, protective. Emily noticed. Of course she did. Her gaze flicked to that inch of distance closing between them. "Interesting," that look said. "Daniel," Emily continued calmly, "you didn't tell me your team worked this intimately." There it was, the word, intimately. "It's late," Daniel said evenly. "You should have called before coming up." "I did call," she replied. His expression flickered. Olivia caught it. "You declined my second call." The room shifted again. Olivia suddenly remembered the buzz earlier that morning, the call he answered, the tone he used. "I'll handle it." Emily walked slowly toward the window overlooking the city, heels clicking rhythmically against marble. She stared out for a moment. "New York looks beautiful from up here, doesn't it?" No one answered. She turned back. "I've been wondering what keeps you here so late lately, Daniel." Her eyes met his. "And now I see." Olivia inhaled sharply. "With respect, ma'am, there's nothing inappropriate happening here." Emily smiled. "That's the thing, sweetheart. Inappropriate doesn't start with touching." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's enough." Emily walked closer to them now, close enough for Olivia to see the composure wasn't fake, it was sharpened. This woman wasn't emotional, she was strategic. "You know what's fascinating?" said Emily softly. "When a husband stops coming home for dinner, he always blames work. When he starts protecting someone at work, he always says it's mentorship." Olivia felt heat rise in her face. Daniel's voice lowered. "You're projecting." "Am I?" Emily's gaze didn't leave his. "You haven't touched her," Emily continued calmly. "I can see that." The statement stunned both of them. "But you've wanted to." Silence. Daniel didn't respond, and that silence said enough. Emily nodded slightly, like she had just confirmed a theory. "I didn't drive here tonight to scream or to cause a scene." Her eyes shifted to Olivia again. "I came because I prefer to look at things directly." Olivia swallowed. "You deserve honesty," Emily continued, "so let me give you some." She turned fully toward Olivia. "Daniel and I have been married 11 years. 11. The number felt heavier than expected. We built this life together. This firm, my father funded the first expansion. That corner office, I pushed for him to take it." Daniel's voice cut in. "Emily." "No," she said softly but firmly. "Let's stop pretending." She stepped closer. "There are cracks in our marriage," Emily admitted. "Real ones. But cracks don't give someone else permission to move in." The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. Olivia found her voice. "I'm not trying to move into anything." Emily studied her face. "You're ambitious, smart. You remind me of myself at 26. That wasn't an insult. It was almost respectful. "But let me ask you something quietly," Emily continued. "When he stays late, when he looks at you the way he does he tell you he's unhappy?" Olivia hesitated. Daniel stepped forward. "This conversation is over." But Emily wasn't finished. "Because if he hasn't," she said gently to Olivia, "then you're building feelings on something that isn't real." The words landed directly in Olivia's chest. Daniel exhaled sharply. "You don't get to manipulate this." Turning to him. "And you don't get to emotionally replace me while pretending you're honorable." That hit. Hard. Olivia stepped back slightly. This wasn't about her. This was about something much deeper. Daniel's voice dropped. "You know why I've been staying late." A shift. Emily's composure tightened. "Say it," she challenged. But he didn't, and the silence between husband and wife suddenly felt older than Olivia. Emily let out a slow breath. "You didn't tell her." What didn't he tell her? Olivia's stomach tightened. Daniel looked away for the first time. That's when Olivia realized something. There was a missing piece, and Emily knew it.
Emily picked up her gloves from the table. I won't embarrass you at work, she said calmly, but let's not pretend we're the only two people who can read a room. Her gaze shifted to Olivia again. He's not the villain here, but he's also not free. The word lingered. Free. Emily walked toward the exit, then paused. Oh, she added casually, Daniel, I scheduled dinner tomorrow, with my father. That wasn't random. That was leverage. You remember how much he enjoys discussing succession planning. Daniel's posture stiffened. Olivia felt it. There it is. Power. Emily gave one last measured look at Olivia. Happy hug day, she said softly. Then she left. The door closed, and the silence that followed felt louder than her entrance. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Olivia broke first. What didn't you tell me? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, hands in pockets. It's complicated. Olivia almost laughed. That's not an answer. He turned slowly. My father-in-law sits on the board. I figured that much. And he controls 40% of the firm. The weight of that settled in. And, Daniel continued, there's a restructuring coming. Olivia felt her pulse quicken. Restructuring how? Senior partnership changes, leadership shifts. And? His eyes met hers. And I'm as untouchable as it looks. The pieces clicked. Emily wasn't just a wife, she was connected, powerfully. So you think she came here to protect her marriage, Olivia said slowly. Daniel's voice dropped. She came to protect everything. The office suddenly felt smaller. So what am I? Olivia asked quietly. He hesitated, and that hurt more than if he had answered quickly. You're important to me, he said finally. That's not what I asked. He stepped closer. You're not a mistake. Her heart betrayed her and reacted anyway. But I can't let this become something that destroys you. There it was again. Protection. Distance disguised as care. You think I can't handle it? She asked softly. I think you underestimate what she's capable of. Olivia's mind replayed Emily's calm entrance. The precision, the control. She didn't seem emotional, Olivia said. Daniel let out a humorless breath. She doesn't need to be. A beat. Daniel, Olivia said carefully, are you staying in your marriage because you want to or because you have to? The question hung between them. His silence answered louder than words. And for the first time, Olivia felt something colder than attraction. Fear. Not of scandal, not of office gossip, but of stepping into something she didn't understand. Daniel moved closer, close enough that she could feel his presence, but still no touch. I would never put you in danger, he said quietly. She looked up at him. You already did. The truth of it stung both of them. The elevator dinged again somewhere in the building. This time it was just background noise, but nothing felt normal anymore. Go home, he said gently. But as she gathered her things, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight wasn't a warning, it was an opening move, and Emily Hayes didn't strike unless she was certain she could win. Outside, the February air bit at Olivia's cheeks as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? A pause, then a familiar voice, smooth, controlled. Olivia, Emily said softly, I hope you got home safely. Olivia stopped walking. How did you left your resume attached to Daniel's first mentorship recommendation, Emily replied calmly. Your number was listed. Her heart pounded. I'm not calling to threaten you, she continued. I'm calling to offer advice. Olivia said nothing. Be very careful, Emily said quietly. Not because of me, a beat, but because you don't yet know who else is watching you. The call ended. Olivia stood frozen on the busy New York sidewalk as taxis rushed past and couples laughed under glowing restaurant signs. Hug day, supposed to be simple, warm. Instead, it felt like she had just stepped into something far bigger than a forbidden attraction. Somewhere above her, in a glass office tower, Daniel Hayes stood alone, realizing that lines weren't just about romance anymore. They were about survival. And someone else, unseen, might already be waiting for them to cross one.
Olivia barely slept. Emily's voice replayed in her head all night. Be very careful. Not because of me, because you don't yet know who else is watching. That wasn't jealousy. That was strategy. By the time Olivia stepped into Halbrook and Pierce the next morning, the Valentine's decorations felt almost mocking. Pink paper hearts hung from the reception desk. Someone had added a sign near the elevators. Spread the love, Valentine's week. Love. Right. The elevator ride to the 28th floor felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, the energy was different. Low, tight. Clusters of associates whispering near the coffee station. 2 senior managers standing unusually close to the glass-walled conference room. Something was happening. Her coworker, Jenna, spotted her immediately. You picked a wild week to work late, Jenna murmured, pulling her aside. Olivia kept her expression neutral. Why? Jenna's eyes widened. You haven't heard? Heard what? They moved the board meeting up. Olivia's stomach tightened. Moved it up to when? Today, noon. That wasn't normal. Board meetings were scheduled weeks in advance. And, Jenna lowered her voice further, word is there's going to be a vote. On what? Olivia didn't have to ask. She knew. Restructuring. She walked toward Daniel's office, pulse steady but sharp. The door was slightly open. Inside, Daniel stood at his desk, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, something he rarely did before noon. On the table in front of him, printed documents. Confidential. He looked up when she knocked softly. Morning. His voice was calm. Too calm. I heard about the board meeting. He nodded once. They accelerated it. Because of last night? His gaze flickered. Possibly. There it was. This wasn't coincidence. Emily hadn't just shown up for emotional closure. She'd shown up the night before a power move. What's the vote? Olivia asked quietly. He hesitated. Executive leadership redistribution. That sounded clean, corporate. Translation? She pressed. They're proposing to divide my client portfolio across 2 partners. Her breath caught. That's a demotion. It's restructuring, he corrected automatically, but his jaw tightened. And who proposed it? He didn't answer, which meant she already knew. Her father, Olivia said softly. Daniel looked out the window. Emily doesn't make impulsive moves. And you think this isn't one? Turned back to her. No, I think this was planned. The pieces clicked into something darker. Emily visits late at night, makes it clear she knows about Olivia, mentions dinner with her father, board meeting moved up, vote scheduled. This wasn't about catching feelings. This was containment. You think I'm a liability, Olivia said slowly. I think, Daniel replied carefully, she believes anything that distracts me is. Silence filled the space. Am I? Olivia asked shyly. He stepped closer. No, but his eyes betrayed uncertainty. By 11:45 a.m., the boardroom doors were closed, frosted glass, muted voices inside. Olivia sat at her desk pretending to review campaign metrics while every nerve in her body listened for something, anything. Across the floor, senior partner Mark Ellison leaned casually against a desk, watching the boardroom. Watching too closely. Olivia noticed something else. He noticed her noticing, and he smiled faintly. That unsettled her more than anything. Her phone buzzed, an internal message. From Daniel. Come to conference room B. Her pulse quickened. Conference room B was smaller, private, off the main corridor. When she entered, Daniel was already inside, and he wasn't alone. Mark Ellison stood near the window. Olivia stopped just inside the doorway. Mark smiled smoothly. Olivia, good to see you. Something about his tone made her skin prickle. Daniel spoke first. Close the door. She did. What's going on? She asked carefully. Mark folded his arms. You've made quite the impression around here. That wasn't praise. Olivia kept her expression neutral. I try to. Mark's smile didn't reach his eyes. You're being reassigned. Her stomach dropped. Reassigned? Daniel's jaw tightened. It's temporary. Mark cut in smoothly. It's strategic. To whose strategy? Olivia asked quickly. Mark's gaze sharpened. Careful. Daniel stepped forward slightly. She reports to me. For now, Mark replied calmly. The meaning was crystal clear. The board wasn't just voting on Daniel. They were isolating him, removing leverage, removing her. You think moving me fixes whatever you think is happening? Olivia asked. Mark tilted his head. This isn't personal. It absolutely was. It's optics, he continued. A senior partner working closely with a junior analyst. Late nights, visibility matters. Olivia's mind raced. Who raised the concern? She asked quietly. Mark's silence confirmed it. Emily, or someone working for her. Daniel's voice lowered dangerously. You can't restructure my team without cause. Mark's expression shifted slightly. Cause is subjective. That was a threat disguised as policy. Olivia felt anger rising, not shame. Anger. I haven't done anything wrong, she said firmly. No one said you did, Mark replied smoothly. That's the problem, Daniel said sharply. Mark looked between them. You're both too intelligent not to see how this looks. He paused. And the board does not like distractions. Distractions. The word echoed. Not misconduct, not scandal. Distraction. Which meant this wasn't about morality. It was about control. Mark checked his watch. The vote concludes in 10 minutes. I suggest you both start thinking long term. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Oh, he added lightly. Emily sends her regards. The door closed behind him. Silence. Heavy. They're using me, Olivia whispered. Daniel didn't deny it. They're using the perception of us, he corrected quietly. Olivia looked up at him. And what if it's not just perception? The question hung between them. He stepped closer, closer than he should have. Then we've both underestimated how expensive this could become. Her pulse thundered. Daniel, she said softly, is your marriage actually falling apart, or is this all about power? He looked away, and that was answer enough. At 12:17 p.m., the boardroom doors opened. Members exited in measured silence. No applause, no celebration. Mark walked out first, then Emily's father, and finally Emily herself. She hadn't been there earlier, or maybe she had. Olivia realized something chilling. She might have been watching from somewhere else. Emily's eyes found Daniel immediately, then Olivia. She walked toward them calmly. It passed, she said quietly. Daniel's expression didn't change. Of course it did. Emily studied him. You still have your title, she continued. For now. There was that phrase again. For now. Olivia stepped forward before she could stop herself. Was this really necessary? Emily looked at her with almost genuine curiosity. You think this is about you? The question cut deep. Then what is it about? Emily's composure shifted, not cracked, but sharpened. It's about preventing chaos before it starts. Her gaze flicked to Daniel. You're brilliant, she said to him, but you're not invincible. Daniel's voice dropped dangerously low. You blindsided me. No, Emily corrected softly. I protected what we built. And what about us? He asked.
For the first time, something real flickered in her eyes. That depends, she said quietly, on whether you remember what we're fighting for. The air between them felt older than any attraction. Olivia suddenly felt like she was standing in the middle of a history she didn't understand. Emily turned to leave, but before she did, she leaned slightly closer to Olivia. One more piece of advice, she murmured. Never assume you're the only variable in a power shift. Then she walked away. That evening, Olivia sat alone in her apartment staring at the city lights. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number, different this time. She answered cautiously. Hello? A male voice, low, unfamiliar. You don't know me, but you should know this isn't about romance. Her stomach turned cold. Who is this? Check the internal audit files from last quarter, specifically Daniel Hayes' client transfers. Her pulse spiked. What are you talking about? A pause. Someone inside that firm wants him out. The line went dead. Audit files, client transfers, not marriage, not jealousy, something bigger. And suddenly, Emily's warning felt different. You don't yet know who else is watching. Maybe Emily wasn't the hunter. Maybe she was reacting. And maybe Daniel wasn't just fighting for his marriage. Maybe he was fighting for his career or his survival. Outside, the city buzzed with Valentine's Week celebrations. Inside Olivia's apartment, something else was blooming. Not love, not scandal, conspiracy. And she had just been pulled into the center of it.
The audit trail. Olivia didn't ignore the call. She couldn't. By 10:42 p.m., her laptop glowed against the darkness of her apartment. The city outside her window pulsed in neon streaks, but her focus narrowed to one thing. Internal audit, Q3 and Q4 transfers. Accessing it wasn't technically difficult. Accessing it without leaving a trace was. She hesitated only once, then logged in. If someone inside the firm was making moves against Daniel, she needed to know. Not because she was blindly loyal, not because she was emotionally invested, but because she was now part of the equation. The files opened slowly. Spreadsheets, transfer logs, client portfolio shifts. At first glance, everything looked normal. Routine reallocations, seasonal adjustments. Then she noticed a pattern. High-performing mid-tier clients gradually shifted, not all at once, quietly, from Daniel's oversight to Mark Ellison's. Her pulse quickened. The dates mattered. She cross-checked them. The earliest transfer? 6 months ago. Long before anyone could claim optics about her. Long before late nights. Long before hugday. This wasn't reaction. It was preparation. Olivia leaned back slowly. Someone had been reducing Daniel's influence well before Emily walked into that office, and if Mark benefited directly, her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Are you okay? She stared at the message for a long moment before replying, Were your clients reassigned 6 months ago? 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Stopped. Started again. Why? That wasn't denial. She typed, Check Q3 transfers, especially Falcon Ridge and North Star Biotech. There was a long pause this time. Then, who told you to look? She didn't answer that. Instead, did you approve them? The typing bubble appeared again and disappeared. Her chest tightened. Another message came. I'll call you. Her phone rang seconds later. She answered immediately. How deep did you go? Daniel asked, voice low. Deep enough. Silence. Then a slow exhale. I didn't approve Falcon Ridge, he admitted. Then how did it move? It required 2 partner signatures. And yours wasn't one of them? No. Cold realization spread through her. They forged it? She asked. No, he said carefully. They used my digital authorization. Without telling you? That system logs IP addresses. Another silence. I was traveling that week. Olivia's pulse pounded in her ears. So either someone accessed your credentials, or someone set me up, he finished quietly. The weight of it hit. This wasn't just restructuring. This was groundwork. Daniel, she said slowly, this started months ago, before me. I know. His voice had changed. Less controlled, more alert. Why didn't you catch it? I trusted my team. A beat. Mark oversees compliance. There it was, the thread tightening. And Emily? Olivia asked softly. Silence. Longer this time. I don't know, he admitted. That answer scared her more than certainty would have. The next morning, the office felt sharper, more observant, like the walls themselves were listening. Olivia walked in to find her access card denied at her usual workstation. Her stomach dropped. She tried again. Red light. Jenna approached, looking uncomfortable. They moved you, she whispered. To where? Jenna pointed toward the far end of the floor, near compliance, near Mark's division. Isolation, control, surveillance. Olivia forced her breathing steady and walked to the new desk, smaller, less visible, directly across from a glass-walled internal review office. Subtle intimidation. Her computer login worked, for now. An email notification popped up. From internal IT, your system access permissions have been modified. Of course they had. Before panic could fully form, another email arrived. From Mark. Let's have a quick check-in. 11:30, my office. Not a request, a summons. Across the floor, Daniel stood inside his office speaking with someone from legal. He glanced up briefly. Their eyes met. He knew. At 11:30 sharp, Olivia stepped into Mark Ellison's office. He didn't look up immediately. Classic power play. Finally, he gestured toward the chair. Adjusting well? Define adjusting, she replied calmly. He smiled faintly. I admire confidence. I prefer clarity. His eyes lifted. Sharp. You've been digging. So he knew, or suspected. Reviewing internal documents isn't illegal, she said evenly. No, he agreed, but context matters. She held his gaze. So does intent. A pause. Then he leaned back. You're talented, he said smoothly. I'd hate to see you attach yourself to the wrong person. There it was, not subtle, not kind. Daniel Hayes built half this firm's growth portfolio, she replied. And yet, Mark countered softly, he's losing ground. Because of you? His smile didn't fade. Because leadership evolves. Olivia leaned forward slightly. Falcon Ridge didn't evolve, it was moved. A flicker. Tiny, but she saw it. You're making assumptions, Mark said. Am I? Silence. Stretched. Then he changed tone. I'll be very direct, he said quietly. Distance yourself, focus on your career, you'll thrive here. And if I don't? His gaze hardened. Careers can stall. Threat confirmed. Olivia stood slowly. I'm not the one you should be worried about, she said. He watched her carefully. Be careful, he replied. The irony almost made her laugh. That afternoon, Daniel called her into his office discreetly. IT flagged your access, he said immediately. So Mark knows. Yes. She closed the door behind her. He threatened my career. I expected that. She studied him. You knew this was happening before me, didn't you? He hesitated. I suspected. And you didn't fight it? I was building a counter. Her pulse quickened. What kind of counter? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. If Mark's manipulating transfers, he's not doing it alone. Board votes require narratives. Narratives require leverage. And Emily? She asked again. His jaw tightened. I still don't know. That uncertainty was growing louder. Daniel, she said carefully, what if she thinks she's protecting you from something bigger? He looked at her sharply. What do you mean? She warned me, she admitted. His expression changed instantly. She called you? Yes. What did she say? That this isn't about romance. Silence filled the room. And that I don't know who else is watching. Daniel moved toward the window, mind clearly racing. Mark has been pushing for control for years, he murmured. Using your marriage as leverage? Possibly. The idea settled into something chilling. If Mark could weaken Daniel professionally, if Emily reacted defensively, if tension increased at home, Daniel would be isolated, emotionally, strategically, vulnerable. And Olivia? She was the perfect narrative, the distraction, the scandal waiting to happen. A knock hit the door suddenly. Both of them froze. Before either could respond, the door opened slightly. Emily stood there, composed, observant. I was hoping to catch you, she said calmly. Her eyes flicked to Olivia, then back to Daniel. The air shifted again. You don't usually come by unannounced twice in a week, Daniel said carefully. Emily stepped inside, closing the door behind her. I don't usually need to. Her gaze sharpened slightly. Mark's moving faster than I was expecting. Olivia's breath caught. So she knew. You're aware, Daniel said slowly. Of course I'm aware. Do you think my father makes decisions without me? Silence. Emily looked directly at Olivia. You accessed the audit files. Not a question, a statement. Olivia's spine straightened. Yes. Emily nodded slightly. Good. That word stunned both of them. Good? Daniel echoed. Emily stepped closer. You're finally paying attention. The room felt like it tilted. What aren't you telling me? Daniel demanded. Emily's composure shifted, not breaking but softening at the edges. Mark isn't just restructuring, he's positioning for majority influence. Daniel went still. And he's using you, she added, looking at Olivia, as emotional leverage. The truth landed heavy. Daniel, you knew, he said. I suspected, Emily corrected, but suspicion isn't proof. And blindsiding me was your solution? I needed you alert, she said sharply, not distracted. The word stung, but now it felt different, less jealous, more tactical. You're saying Mark accessed my credentials, Daniel said slowly. Emily's silence answered. Olivia's pulse roared. You're saying this is bigger than internal politics, Olivia whispered. Emily nodded once. If Mark secures majority client influence before the next fiscal review, he can force leadership reevaluation. And remove me, Daniel finished. Yes. Silence pressed in around them. Everything shifted. This wasn't a love triangle. This was a corporate ambush, and Olivia had walked directly into the battlefield. Emily's gaze softened slightly toward Olivia. You're not the enemy, she said, but you are useful, honest, brutal. Daniel stepped between them again instinctively. She's not
Controlled damage. The air inside Daniel's office felt different now. Not romantic, not forbidden, strategic. 3 people stood in a silent triangle, not rivals anymore, but reluctant participants in something larger than any of them. Mark Ellison wasn't reacting, he was executing. Emily was the first to move. We don't have much time, she said calmly. If he accessed your credentials once, he'll do it again. Daniel's voice lowered. You're certain it was him? I'm certain it benefits him. That's not proof. It's enough to act. Olivia watched them carefully. This wasn't a broken marriage dynamic. This was 2 people who knew each other's strengths too well. You blindsided me to make me alert, Daniel said. Yes. You risked humiliating her, he added, nodding slightly toward Olivia. Emily didn't flinch. I needed to see how serious this was. Olivia held her gaze. And? Emily studied her for a long moment. You're not reckless. That almost sounded like approval. But you're emotionally involved, Emily added. Silence. Olivia didn't deny it. Daniel stepped forward. This stops being about her. No, Emily corrected quietly, it becomes about her. Both of them looked at her. Mark needs narrative leverage. If he can't prove financial misconduct, he'll create moral optics. The words settled heavy. Scandal. He'll leak something, Olivia realized. Yes. Like what? Daniel demanded. Emily's eyes sharpened. Late nights, private meetings, mentorship favoritism, improper advancement. Olivia's stomach tightened. He's already moved my desk, she said. Emily nodded. Isolation tactic. If you push back, you look defensive. Daniel ran his hair through his hair. So what do you suggest? Emily hesitated, and that hesitation felt different than before. Less calculated, more personal. We control the narrative, she said finally. How? Olivia asked. Emily turned to her. You step back. The words hit immediately. Step back how? Olivia asked quietly. You request transfer, voluntarily. Daniel's head snapped toward her. Absolutely not. Emily didn't break eye contact with Olivia. If Mark forces it, it looks like removal. If you request it, it looks strategic. You want me to disappear, Olivia said. No, Emily replied evenly. I want you untouchable. The distinction mattered. Daniel shook his head. That won't stop him. No, Emily agreed, but it removes his easiest weapon. Olivia's pulse pounded. So I become invisible while you two fight this? Emily's composure shifted slightly. You think I enjoy this? She asked quietly. That wasn't defensive. It was tired. The first crack in her armor. She continued. Mark has been waiting for Daniel to slip. He just didn't expect the slip to look like you. Olivia exhaled slowly. I didn't ask to be part of this. No, Emily said, but you are. Silence stretched again. Then Daniel spoke, softer than before. I won't sacrifice her career. Emily looked at him carefully. Then decide, she said quietly. Are you fighting for your marriage or your position? The question lingered in the room, and for the first time, Olivia saw it clearly. This wasn't just corporate politics. It was a pressure test of loyalty, of love, of power. By late afternoon, whispers had already been spreading across the office floor. Olivia could feel it. The glances that lasted half a second too long, the conversations that stopped when she approached. Jenna leaned over at one point. Did something happen in the board meeting? She whispered. Why? Mark's been asking about your performance metrics. That wasn't normal. Performance reviews weren't due for another quarter. He's fishing. For what? Jenna asked. Olivia didn't answer. Across the floor, Mark stood near the compliance office speaking quietly with someone from IT, and he glanced up just long enough to meet her eyes. He didn't look angry, he looked confident. That unsettled her more. Her email pinged. From HR. Subject line. Mentorship realignment discussion. There it was. Formal narrative building. Her pulse steadied instead of racing. Good. If he wanted optics, I would give him a controlled version. She stood and walked directly to Daniel's office. Emily was gone. For now. He looked up immediately. I saw the HR email, he said. So did I. Silence. Maybe she's right, Olivia said quietly. His expression hardened. No. Listen, she continued. If I request temporary reassignment, it removes tension. It validates suspicion. No, she countered calmly. It signals professionalism. He stepped closer. This isn't just professional. Her chest tightened. I know. The admission hung between them. And that's exactly why it's dangerous, she added softly. The truth of it was impossible to ignore now. Whatever they were building emotionally had become leverage, weaponized. I won't let him corner you, Daniel said. You already can't stop him from trying. Silence. Then she did something neither of them had done before. She stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath, close enough that the line blurred, but she didn't touch him. Not yet. Hugday, she whispered faintly, almost ironic. Funny how the one thing we haven't done is the thing that could destroy us. His jaw tightened. Olivia. We don't cross lines, she finished gently. But we're standing on one. The air between them felt electric and fragile. For a second, just one, he lifted his hand, not to pull her in, not to claim, just hovering, like gravity was fighting restraint. Then, a knock. Sharp, deliberate. They stepped apart instantly. Come in, Daniel called. Mark entered without waiting. He glanced between them once, measured, assessing. Good, he said lightly. Both of you here. Daniel's tone cooled. What do you want? Mark walked in slowly. Just ensuring alignment. With what? Olivia asked evenly. With professional boundaries. There it was again. Daniel didn't sit. Neither did Olivia. Mark smiled faintly. I'll be honest, he continued. There are conversations happening. I'm sure there are, Daniel replied. Some members feel your judgment has been compromised. The insult landed clean. And you disagree? Daniel asked. Mark didn't answer directly. I believe in perception management. Olivia stepped forward slightly. I've requested a mentorship realignment meeting, she said calmly. Mark's eyes shifted toward her. Interesting. You have? Yes. Silence. That wasn't the reaction he expected. I believe distancing my role protects the firm from unnecessary speculation. She kept her tone steady, professional, strategic. Mark studied her carefully, then nodded once. That's wise. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. Mark turned toward him. You see, sometimes the junior staff understand optics better than senior leadership. The subtle jab was intentional, but something had shifted. Mark had expected defensiveness. He got compliance, and compliance complicated his narrative. As he left, he paused. Smart move, he told Olivia quietly, but there was something behind it. Suspicion. The door closed. Daniel exhaled slowly. You just played him. No, she corrected. I made him adjust. Silence. Then he looked at her differently, not as a junior analyst, not as temptation, but as an equal in strategy. I underestimated you, he admitted. Don't, she said softly. The moment stretched again, less reckless now, more deliberate. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number, again. She answered cautiously. Hello? The same male voice from before. You moved faster than expected. Her pulse spiked. Who is this? You're being watched more closely now. I figured. You being watched more closely now. I figured. Mark isn't the only one positioning. Her stomach tightened. What does that mean? A pause. Check the board attendance log from today. The line went dead. She stared at her phone. Daniel's expression darkened. He's escalating. No, she corrected quietly. He's testing. She looked toward the hallway where Emily had stood earlier. Emily knew more than she was saying. Mark was moving pieces, and someone else, unseen, feeding information. Daniel, she said slowly, what if the board vote wasn't unanimous? He frowned. It wasn't. How many opposed? He hesitated. 2. Who? Emily and 1 independent member. Her pulse quickened, which means someone inside is quietly resisting Mark. Daniel. The independent vote. The board attendance log wasn't classified. It wasn't hidden, which meant most people would never think to question it. That was the mistake. At 8:15 p.m., the office was nearly empty again. Valentine's week balloons hovered lifelessly near reception, slightly deflated now. The irony wasn't lost on Olivia. She sat at her reassigned desk near compliance, screen angled carefully away from open sightlines. Board attendance, emergency vote. 7 members present. 5 in favor, 2 opposed. She already knew one name, Emily Hayes. Her eyes moved to the second. Richard Calloway, independent oversight member. Olivia frowned. Calloway. The name rang faintly familiar. She searched internal directories. Late 50s, former federal regulatory advisor, joined the board 3 years ago after a compliance restructuring. Not socially connected, not family, not legacy, independent. Her phone buzzed softly, a message from Daniel. Still here? She replied, looking into Calloway. 3 dots appeared, stopped, then, be careful. She almost smiled at that. Careful had become the word of the week. As if summoned by thought alone, a shadow moved across the glass well beside her desk. She glanced up. Mark. Standing just outside compliance, watching, not openly, not aggressively, just aware. She held his gaze, didn't look away, didn't flinch. After a few seconds, he walked off. Testing. Always testing. At 8:47 p.m., the elevator dinged. Soft, measured, not cleaning staff. Olivia looked up again. A man stepped out. Silver hair, dark overcoat, calm presence. He wasn't lost. He walked with quiet authority toward Daniel's office. Richard Calloway. Her pulse quickened. She watched as he knocked once and entered without waiting long. The door closed. Lights still on inside. She hesitated, then stood. If she was already in this, she might as well stop pretending she wasn't. She walked toward Daniel's office slowly, close enough to see movement through the glass. Calloway stood near the desk, Daniel across from him. No raised voices, no anger, just intensity. She didn't knock. She waited. After a few seconds, Daniel noticed her through the glass. His expression shifted, not alarmed, but cautious. Calloway followed his gaze, then turned. Their eyes met through the glass wall, assessing. Olivia didn't look away. A moment later, Daniel opened the door. It's all right, Calloway said calmly before Daniel could speak. Let her in. That surprised both of them. Olivia stepped inside. Calloway studied her quietly. You're the analyst. He nodded. He nodded once. Good. Daniel frowned slightly. Good? Calloway clasped his hands behind his back. Mark expected you to panic. Olivia's spine straightened. I don't panic easily. I can see that. Silence settled briefly. Then Calloway continued. I opposed the vote. I know, Daniel said. I didn't do it for you, Calloway clarified evenly. Daniel didn't react. I did it because the numbers don't align. Olivia's pulse sharpened. Which numbers? She asked carefully. Calloway looked at her with mild approval. Client acquisition growth versus portfolio reduction. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You saw it. I've been seeing it for months, Calloway replied calmly. Mark's consolidating influence beyond performance metrics. Olivia felt vindicated. This started before me. Yes, Calloway confirmed. Daniel looked between them. Why didn't you say something earlier? Calloway's expression didn't change. Because I needed proof. The same word again. Proof. And now? Olivia asked. Calloway glanced toward the compliance wing. Now Mark is accelerating. Silence. He expected emotional fallout, Calloway continued. Instead, he got resistance. Daniel's voice lowered. You think he'll escalate? I know he will. The certainty in that statement chilled the room. Olivia stepped slightly forward. He accessed Daniel's digital authorization. Calloway's eyes sharpened. You can prove that? Not yet. Then you don't say it out loud, Calloway replied calmly. The warning wasn't harsh. It was precise. Daniel exhaled slowly. So what's his endgame? Calloway didn't hesitate. Force instability, trigger ethics review, suspend leadership pending investigation. The words landed heavy. Suspension, public, damaging. And he uses me as the ethics narrative, Olivia said quietly. Yes. No sugarcoating, no denial. Daniel's jaw tightened. I won't let that happen. Calloway looked at him carefully. Then stop reacting emotionally. The room went still. Calloway turned to Olivia. You're the variable he didn't account for. She didn't know whether that was compliment or warning. He assumed you would either crumble or cross a line. Silence. We haven't, Daniel said. Calloway studied them both. I can see that. The weight of that observation lingered. You came here tonight for a reason, Daniel said finally. Yes, Calloway replied. He reached into his coat and placed a thing folder on the desk. Internal audit expansion. Olivia's pulse spiked. What is it? Daniel asked. Preliminary financial inconsistencies tied to Mark's division. Silence exploded quietly between them. You found something, Olivia breathed. Not enough yet, Calloway corrected, but enough to justify quiet monitoring. Daniel looked at the folder like it might detonate. Why bring this to me? He asked. Calloway's eyes shifted briefly toward Olivia. Because if he moves to suspend you, I'll need leverage. The strategy was clear now. Mark builds optics, Calloway builds counterweight, Emily maneuvers politically, and Olivia, she was standing in the center of it all. You trust him? Olivia asked Calloway directly. Calloway held her gaze. I trust outcomes, not comfort, not loyalty. Outcomes. He turned back to Daniel. You have two options. Go on. Distance yourself from her completely and hope he loses momentum. Daniel's jaw tightened. And the second? Calloway's eyes hardened slightly. Or expose him before he finishes positioning. Silence. The city lights shimmered outside the glass like distant fire. Exposure requires risk, Daniel said quietly. Yes. And timing. Yes. Olivia stepped forward again. What's the window? Calloway looked at her thoughtfully. 3 weeks. Valentine's week, corporate quarter closing, 3 weeks. After that, Mark would have majority narrative control. Daniel glanced at her. This isn't your fight. She met his gaze steadily. It became mine when he used me. Silence. Calloway nodded once. That, he said quietly, is why he miscalculated. A sudden noise in the hallway made all three of them freeze. Footsteps, approaching. Not cleaning staff, not random. Measured. The door handle shifted slightly, then stopped. A shadow lingered beneath the frosted glass. Listening. Calloway's expression didn't change. Daniel moved subtly toward the door. The shadow disappeared. Footsteps retreated. Silence returned. Olivia's pulse pounded in her ears. He's watching, she whispered. Yes, Calloway replied calmly. Let him. The confidence in that statement shifted something inside her. For the first time since Hugday began, she didn't feel hunted. She felt armed. Calloway picked up his coat. Keep everything clean, he said to Daniel, then to Olivia. And whatever you're feeling, he paused slightly, make sure it doesn't give him what he wants. The meaning was unmistakable. Emotion was leverage. Attachment was vulnerability. Calloway left as quietly as he had arrived. The office fell still again. Daniel looked at her. This is getting dangerous. It already was. He stepped closer. Closer than strategy required. 3 weeks? Yes. And if we fail, she held his gaze. Then he wins. Silence stretched. Heavy. Charged. This time there was no interruption. No knock. No phone buzz. Just the weight of proximity. For a second, just one, he lifted his hand again. Not hovering now, resting gently against her upper arm. Not a hug. Not possession. Just contact. Warm. Real. Her breath caught. His eyes searched hers. Every line. Every boundary. Balanced on the edge. And then, he stepped back, slowly, deliberately. The line remained uncrossed, but thinner than ever. Outside, somewhere in the dim hallway, Mark Ellison stood still in the shadows, watching, calculating, and adjusting his next move.
The leak. The rumor started at 7:12 a.m. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a forwarded email with no sender name. Subject line, concern regarding senior leadership conduct. By 7:30, half the 28th floor had seen it. By 8, the entire firm had. Olivia knew something was wrong before she even opened her inbox. The office felt different the moment she stepped off the elevator. Quieter. Not the normal corporate hush, but the kind that hums beneath tension. Conversations cut short, eyes lifting and dropping too quickly. Jenna approached her almost immediately. "Tell me this isn't about you," she whispered. Olivia's stomach dropped. "What did you get?" Jenna turned her phone around. A screenshot. Blurry, grainy, taken through glass. Daniel's office. Late night. 2 figures standing close. Too close. The angle was intentional, deceptive. It looked intimate. It looked incriminating. It looked exactly like Mark needed it to look. Olivia felt her pulse slow instead of spike. Control. "Who sent it?" she asked calmly. "Anonymous internal relay," Jenna replied, "but it's everywhere." Olivia opened her email. There it was. The message body was brief. "Employees deserve transparency. Leadership integrity matters." Below it, the image, timestamped, 2 nights ago, the night Emily walked in. Her breath caught slightly. The framing was cruelly precise. It captured the second before they stepped apart, when Mark had knocked. Daniel's hand hovering near her arm, her body angled toward him, not touching, but close enough to suggest more. The narrative had been written. All it needed was imagination. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel, I'm on my way to you," he said immediately. "Don't," she replied calmly. Silence on the line. "They want us reacting," she continued. "Stay in your office." A pause. "You've seen it." "Yes." His voice hardened. "This is manufactured." "I know." "Olivia, I'm fine." That part wasn't entirely true, but panic would serve Mark, not them. She ended the call before emotion could creep in. Across the floor, HR doors were already closed. Mark stood near compliance, speaking quietly with 2 board representatives. He didn't look stressed. He looked prepared. Their eyes met across the room. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. At 9:05 a.m., an official email followed. Temporary ethics review, senior leadership inquiry. There it was. Suspension pending review. Daniel Hayes placed on administrative leave effective immediately. The speed of it was surgical. Olivia's screen blurred for half a second before she forced focus back. This was the escalation Calloway predicted. Mark hadn't waited 3 weeks. He'd forced the timeline. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She answered without hesitation. "You're ahead of schedule," the familiar male voice said. "Calloway?" she asked quietly. A pause. "Yes." Her pulse steadied. "He moved sooner than expected." "Yes," Calloway replied, "which means he's nervous. Nervous people are dangerous." "Yes." Silence. "Daniel's being suspended," she said. "I'm aware. Can you stop it?" "No." That answer landed cold. But suspension isn't termination, it's pressure. Olivia watched as 2 members of security approached Daniel's office, professional, polite, public. Mark stood back, observing. "It's optics," she murmured. "Yes." Calloway's voice lowered slightly. "You have to decide something now." "What?" "Stay clean, or go offensive." The choice hit hard. What does offensive look like? Exposure. Without proof? Find it. The line went dead. At 9:17 a.m., Daniel stepped out of his office. No cuffs, no shouting, just controlled damage. Employees pretended not to stare, but they stared. He walked past Olivia's desk without stopping. Professional, measured. But as he passed, their eyes met. In that brief second, there was no panic, only clarity. Mark had struck. Now they responded. The elevator doors closed behind Daniel, and just like that, the firm felt colder. By 10 a.m., HR called Olivia in. Small conference room, neutral walls, too bright lighting, 2 representatives, and Mark, of course. "This is standard procedure," HR began smoothly. Olivia nodded. "We've received anonymous concerns regarding boundary violations." "Based on a photograph?" Olivia asked evenly. HR hesitated. "Based on conduct perception." Perception again. Mark leaned back in his chair. "We're not accusing you of misconduct," he said calmly. "Just reviewing." "Reviewing what exactly?" she asked. "Whether professional lines were maintained." She held his gaze. They were. Silence. HR exchanged a glance. "Were you ever alone with Mr. Hayes after hours?" "Yes." "Multiple times?" "Yes." "For strictly work-related matters?" "Yes." Mark watched carefully, like he was measuring micro-expressions. "Did Mr. Hayes ever initiate physical contact?" Olivia didn't blink. "No." "That was true." "And you?" "No." "Also true." HR typed notes. Mark's jaw tightened slightly. He hadn't expected that level of composure. "Would you be willing to provide written affirmation?" HR asked. "Yes." She didn't hesitate, because truth was on her side. What wasn't was interpretation. When the meeting ended, she stepped back onto the floor. Whispers hadn't stopped. They'd grown. Her desk phone rang immediately. Internal extension. She answered. "Olivia." Her voice was calm. Too calm. "I assume you've seen it." "Yes." Silence. "I warned you he'd escalate." "Yes." "I didn't anticipate this speed." Neither had she. "You think Mark leaked it personally?" Olivia asked. "Yes." No hesitation. "Why now?" "Because something spooked him." Olivia's mind raced.
Calloway's visit, the expanded audit. He'd sensed pressure. He's trying to force you to choose sides publicly, Emily said quietly. Between you and Daniel? Yes. The weight of that sank in. If Olivia defended Daniel aggressively, it looked emotional. If she stayed quiet, it looked suspicious. What are you going to do? Olivia asked. A long pause. Then, I'm calling a private board session. That surprised her. To defend him? To destabilize Mark. The words were sharp, not romantic, strategic. Why? Olivia asked softly. Silence lingered longer this time. Then Emily answered honestly. Because he crossed a line. The irony of that wasn't lost. Emily hung up. By late afternoon, news of Daniel's suspension had reached clients. Calls started coming in, concerns, clarifications. Mark stepped in smoothly, offering reassurance, offering continuity, positioning himself. Olivia watched it all unfold from her reassigned desk. Then her screen flickered. A restricted access notification. Someone was attempting to log in to her account remotely. Her pulse sharpened. She canceled the session immediately, tried to trace it. Blocked. But she caught one thing before it vanished. Internal IP, Compliance Division. Mark wasn't just attacking Daniel, he was looking for something. Proof they didn't have, or something he thought they did. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel. They suspended my access completely, he said quietly. I know. I won't drag you into this. You didn't, Olivia replied evenly. He did. Silence. I should have protected you, he murmured. You tried. A pause. Are you scared? She looked across the office at Mark, who stood confidently near the boardroom doors. Yes, she admitted. But not of him. Silence on the other end. Then of what? She exhaled slowly. Of how far this goes. Because this wasn't just career damage anymore. This was reputational warfare. And once reputation fractures, it rarely heals clean. At 6:22 p.m., as the office emptied under the weight of scandal, Olivia stayed seated. She opened the audit folder Calloway had referenced, digging deeper, tracing transfers, cross-referencing timestamps. And then, she saw it. A secondary authorization pattern, hidden in metadata. Subtle, but consistent. Mark's login credentials were active in the system minutes before each unauthorized transfer. Not proof of forgery, but proximity. And proximity created questions. Her pulse quickened. He'd moved early, which meant he was afraid. And fear.
The exposure. The Monday after Hugday didn't feel like a normal Monday. It felt like the beginning of a trial. The office lobby buzzed louder than usual, but it wasn't because of deadlines or quarterly targets. It was because of whispers, side glances, half sentences that stopped when someone walked by. Olivia stepped out of the elevator and felt it instantly. Eyes. People pretending not to look. The atmosphere had shifted from subtle curiosity to something sharper, expectation. She walked to her desk without reacting. She had learned composure from the best. Across the floor, Daniel's office door was already closed. He hadn't called her in. That was new. By noon, an all-staff email appeared. Mandatory Leadership Ethics Review, 3:30 p.m., Conference Room A. No explanation, no agenda, just attendance required. The room filled slowly. Managers in the front, analysts along the sides, HR at the back with folders. Olivia sat 2 seats away from Daniel. He didn't look at her. His jaw was tight, controlled. Evelyn stood at the head of the table. She wasn't wearing her usual elegance. She looked surgical, precise. I appreciate everyone being here, she began. This isn't about rumor. This is about integrity. Silence thickened. She connected her laptop to the screen. A paused video filled the wall. The security footage. The Hugday clip. The entire room went still. Someone inhaled sharply. Evelyn pressed play. There it was. The hallway. The embrace. The closeness. Daniel's hand at Olivia's waist. Olivia's face against his chest. Not scandalous, but undeniably intimate. She let it run, then paused. No sound, she said, but body language speaks. She turned to the room. Our company policy clearly states that non-disclosed romantic relationships between direct report employees and leadership constitute a conflict of interest. The word romantic echoed. Daniel stood. This is inappropriate, he said evenly. This was a personal moment captured out of context. Personal, Evelyn repeated. In the workplace. Her gaze moved to Olivia. Would you like to clarify the nature of your relationship with my husband? The word husband hit differently in that room. Olivia stood slowly. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, but her voice didn't shake. There is no official relationship. Murmurs. Evelyn tilted her head. So unofficial. Olivia met her eyes. There are feelings, but no affair. Gasps. Daniel closed his eyes for a split second. HR shifted uncomfortably. Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. Feelings, she repeated softly. How convenient. Daniel stepped forward. This is not a company matter. It became one the moment you embraced a subordinate under company cameras. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. She turned back to the room. I'm filing a formal ethics complaint. The air left Olivia's lungs. Daniel didn't move. He just stood there, absorbing it. The meeting ended without applause, without resolution, just shock. People avoided eye contact as they exited. By evening, Daniel's access card was temporarily suspended pending review. He packed his office in quiet efficiency. Olivia stood in the doorway. "You shouldn't have admitted feelings," he said quietly. "I won't lie for survival." His eyes softened. "That's what I'm afraid of." Downstairs, Evelyn watched through the glass doors as Daniel stepped out with a box in his hands. She didn't look triumphant. She looked determined. The next morning, Olivia found her system access restricted. Not suspended, but limited. Her projects reassigned. Her clients transferred. A message from HR sat unread in her inbox. She opened it. Subject: internal review interview scheduled. Her stomach dropped. The interview room felt colder than the conference room. 2 HR representatives, 1 legal advisor, a recorder on the table. "Ms. Parker," the HR director began, "did you feel pressured into the embrace?" "No." "Has Mr. Carter ever suggested career advancement in exchange for emotional involvement?" "No." "Do you believe your performance reviews were influenced by personal feelings?" Olivia hesitated. Honesty or protection? They were fair. The legal advisor leaned forward. "Did you initiate the physical contact?" "Yes." That answer shifted the air. "Why?" She took a breath. "Because I cared about him." The silence that followed was almost respectful. After 2 hours, she walked out drained. Outside, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. "Olivia." Daniel's voice, low, steady. "I'm outside." She stepped into the parking lot. He stood beside his car. No office badge, no authority, just a man. "They're going to push for resignation, for one of us." "Which one?" "Whichever seems easier to remove." She swallowed. "That would be me." He didn't deny it. Evelyn wasn't done. That evening, she visited Olivia's apartment building. Not announced, not invited. Olivia opened the door and froze. Evelyn stood there in a black coat, composed as ever. "May I come in?" It wasn't a question. They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. The power dynamic had shifted. Not boss's wife, not corporate strategist, just 2 women. "You love him," Evelyn said plainly. Olivia didn't answer immediately. "Yes." She studied her. "You think he'll leave me?" "I don't know." "Would you want him to?" That question landed heavy. Olivia's voice softened. "I want him to choose honestly." Evelyn leaned back. "He won't choose if he believes he's protecting you." The room felt smaller. "You filed the complaint to force a decision," Olivia said quietly. Evelyn didn't deny it. "I filed it because secrets rot everything they touch." Her eyes hardened slightly. "You may believe you're innocent, but you stepped into a marriage." Olivia held her gaze. "And you stepped into a war." That was the first time Evelyn smiled. A sharp, almost impressed smile. "Careful," she said. "You're not as powerless as you think." She stood to leave. At the door, she paused. "If he resignates, he walks away from everything he built. And if I resignate?" Evelyn's answer was calm. "You disappear." The door closed behind her. 2 days later, the board issued its preliminary decision. Daniel was asked to take indefinite leave pending full review. Olivia was offered a choice: transfer to another branch in Chicago or submit resignation. She stared at the email. Chicago meant distance. From him, from scandal, from everything. Her phone buzzed again. "Daniel." "Don't resign," he said immediately. "You don't even know what they offered." "I know, Evelyn." Silence. "She wants you gone," he added. "And you?" His answer took longer. "I want you safe." The word safe hurt more than disappear. That night, Olivia packed a suitcase. Not fully, just enough. She didn't tell Daniel. She didn't tell anyone. She drove to the airport before dawn. Halfway there, her phone lit up with breaking news from a corporate insider blog. Anonymous source claims CEO's wife leaked security footage to the media. Her heart pounded. She pulled over. Another alert followed. Board investigating potential misuse of company surveillance by non-employee. Evelyn had made a move, but it might have backfired. Olivia's phone rang again. "Daniel, did you see the news?" "Yes." She overplayed. The tone in his voice wasn't victory, it was realization. She thought she was controlling the narrative, but she exposed herself. Olivia stared at the rising sun over the highway. "So what now?" "Now," he said, "it's no longer just about us." Back at headquarters, emergency meetings were already unfolding. Legal teams, board members, damage control. The ethics complaint had turned into a governance investigation, and Evelyn was no longer just the wronged wife. She was a liability. By afternoon, Daniel received a call from the board chair. He didn't tell Olivia everything, but he told her enough. "They're reconsidering the suspension." "And you?" "I told them I won't return under the same structure." She went quiet. "Meaning?" "I won't hide." The words settled like a storm warning. "Daniel, I'm filing for divorce." The world seemed to stop for a second. Not dramatic, not shouted, just final. On the other end of town, Evelyn sat in her office reviewing headlines. For the first time, she didn't look composed. She looked cornered. Her strategy exposed more than an embrace. It exposed fractures, in marriage, in business, in power. That evening, Daniel stood outside Olivia's apartment again. No box, no badge, just certainty. When she opened the door, he didn't step inside immediately. "Chicago?" he asked. She shook her head. "I haven't decided." He stepped closer. "This time, I'm not asking you to hide. And I'm not asking you to choose me out of guilt." He reached for her hand. Not a hug, not yet, just fingers intertwined. "For the first time," he said quietly, "there's no secrecy." Inside, the television played muted news coverage of corporate scandal. Outside, the air felt charged. Evelyn wasn't finished. The board wasn't finished. The fallout had just begun. But for the first time since Hugday, the embrace wasn't the secret. It was the truth. And
The divorce clause. The divorce filing hit like a controlled explosion. Not loud, not chaotic, strategic. Daniel didn't make a public announcement. He didn't need to. In corporate circles, paperwork traveled faster than press releases. By noon, 3 board members knew. By 2, legal counsel was preparing contingency statements. By evening, financial blogs were speculating about leadership instability. And Evelyn? She received the notification through her attorney at 8:14 a.m. Irreconcilable differences. No public accusations, no character claims. Clean, cold, calculated. She read it twice, then set it down on her glass desk and stared at the city skyline outside her office window. Daniel had finally made a move that wasn't defensive. This was offensive. Olivia didn't feel victorious when Daniel told her. She felt terrified. They sat in her apartment kitchen again, same table where Evelyn had once sat. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "Yes. Because of me?" He didn't hesitate. "No, because of us." There was a difference. One was a reaction, the other was a decision. But decisions came with consequences. Evelyn wasn't just a wife, she was a shareholder. She owned 12% of Carter Holdings, acquired during the company's early expansion phase when Daniel had needed capital and she had leveraged family trust investments. Divorce didn't just mean emotional separation, it meant financial fracture, and she knew exactly how to use that. 2 days later, Daniel was summoned to a private board session. Not a review, not an ethics hearing, a negotiation. The board chair, Harold Benton, folded his hands across the polished table. "You understand the position this places us in." Daniel remained composed. "I do. Your wife is threatening to liquidate her shares." There it was. If Evelyn sold her stake publicly, stock prices would plummet, investors would panic, competitors would circle. Daniel said calmly, "She won't." "Are you certain?" No, he wasn't, but he couldn't show that. Harold leaned forward. "She's proposing an alternative." His jaw tightened. "Let me guess. Reinstatement of marital counseling and withdrawal of divorce filing in exchange for maintaining her stake and retracting the ethics complaint." It wasn't just personal anymore. It was leverage. Daniel stood slowly. "This isn't a board matter." "It became one," Harold replied evenly, "when personal decisions began affecting corporate stability." The unspoken message hung in the air. Choose the company or choose the woman. That evening, Daniel didn't go straight to Olivia. He drove instead to the house he once shared with Evelyn. The lights were on. She was waiting. Of course she was. She poured wine without asking and handed him a glass. "You filed," she said softly. "Yes. And you expected me to, what, fold?" "I expected honesty." She laughed lightly. "Honesty is expensive." He set the untouched glass down. "Is this about the company?" "It's about legacy." Her eyes sharpened. "I built that company with you. I sacrificed for it. I protected it. And now you're risking everything over a subordinate." "She's not a subordinate anymore." "That's semantics." "No," he said evenly. "It's evolution." Evelyn studied him carefully. "You love her." "Yes." The word didn't shake. It didn't hesitate. For the first time in weeks, Evelyn's composure flickered. "You think she can stand beside you the way I did?" "I don't need her to stand beside me the way you did. I need her to stand beside me honestly." The silence stretched. Then Evelyn delivered it. "The divorce settlement includes a clause." He waited. "If you pursue a public relationship with her within 6 months of finalization, I liquidate my shares." There it was. Not emotional, strategic. "You'd hurt your own investment. I'd protect my dignity." Dignity, he almost smiled. This isn't about dignity. It's about consequences. Olivia noticed the shift immediately when Daniel arrived at her apartment later that night. He wasn't defeated, but he wasn't steady either. "She added a clause," he said. Olivia listened quietly. She didn't interrupt. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair. "So, if we go public, she sells." "Yes. And if she sells, stock drops, investors panic, board pressure increases. I could lose my position." There it was, the real cost. She stood and walked to the window, staring at the streetlights below. "You'd lose everything you built." "I'd lose a title," he corrected. "That's not the same thing." Silence filled the room. "Do you regret filing?" "No." "Do you regret us?" His answer was immediate. Never. But regret wasn't the issue. Power was. The media caught wind of the divorce filing by Friday. Speculation exploded. Was the Hugday footage the cause? Was there an affair? Would Carter Holdings survive leadership scandal? News vans parked outside headquarters. PR teams scrambled. Evelyn gave no comment. Daniel gave no comment. Olivia avoided the building entirely. Her Chicago transfer offer still sat unsigned in her inbox. That night, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Miss Parker," a male voice said smoothly. "This is Victor Lane from Axis Capital." Her stomach tightened. Axis Capital, Carter Holdings' largest external investor. "We'd like to discuss your role in recent events. I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of the company. I'm not asking you to." Pause. "We're asking whether you intend to remain connected to Mr. Carter." The question wasn't moral, it was financial. She understood immediately. Investors were assessing risk. "I don't discuss my personal life with shareholders," she replied evenly. Victor's tone cooled slightly. Personal lives have corporate consequences. After she hung up, she felt the weight of it. She wasn't just a woman in love anymore. She was a variable in a billion-dollar equation. Meanwhile, Evelyn made her own move. She scheduled a private interview with a respected business magazine. Not gossip press, not tabloids. Professional, measured. In the interview, she didn't mention Olivia by name. She didn't accuse Daniel directly. She spoke instead about the importance of ethical leadership and the burden of maintaining corporate integrity within personal turmoil. It was elegant, subtle, deadly. By morning, the article was trending. Daniel read it in silence. "She's framing herself as the protector," Olivia said softly. "She always does." "Are you?" He looked at her. "I'm choosing." "That's not the same thing." The board scheduled an emergency shareholder call. Pressure mounted. Stock dipped 3%. Not catastrophic, but noticeable. Harold Benton called Daniel privately again. "She's not bluffing." "I know." "Are you prepared to step down if necessary?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Finally, "Yes." The word felt heavier than the divorce filing. That night, Olivia made a decision of her own. She opened her laptop, pulled up the Chicago transfer form, and signed it. She didn't tell Daniel immediately. She stared at the confirmation email for a long time before sending him a message. "We need to talk tomorrow." He arrived at her apartment before sunrise. "You're leaving," he said quietly. "For now." "This is because of the clause. This is because I won't be the reason you lose everything. You're not the reason, but I am the trigger." He stepped closer. "You think distance will fix this?" "No," she said softly, "but it removes leverage." The word hung between them. Leverage. If she wasn't here, if there was no visible relationship, Evelyn couldn't activate the clause without looking vindictive. "You'd sacrifice us," he said. "I'm protecting you." His voice lowered. "I don't need protection." She looked at him steadily. "Everyone does." For a long moment, neither moved. Then he pulled her into a hug. Not desperate, not secret, just real. The same kind of hug that had started everything, except now it carried cost. At the airport, she didn't look back. Daniel watched her disappear past security. His phone buzzed minutes later. "Evelyn," he answered. "She left," she said calmly. "Yes. You always underestimate me. And you always overestimate control." Silence. "Will you withdraw the filing?" "No." Her voice cooled. "Then this isn't over." He ended the call. Back in New York, investors continued to circle. The board deliberated, Evelyn prepared legal counteroffers, and Daniel walked into headquarters for the first time since suspension, not as a triumphant CEO, but as a man willing to risk everything. Chicago wasn't an ending, it was a pause, and pauses in power struggles were rarely peaceful. As Olivia's plane lifted into the sky, she didn't know whether she was saving their future or giving Evelyn exactly what she wanted.
The final embrace. Chicago in February felt nothing like New York. It wasn't just the colder wind whipping off Lake Michigan or the gray stretch of skyline that felt endless and unfamiliar. It was the quiet. No reporters outside her building, no sideways glances in elevators, no whispered speculation in glass conference rooms. Olivia Parker had transferred branches, accepted a lateral title adjustment, and stepped into anonymity. And anonymity, she was discovering, had weight. The Chicago office treated her like any other mid-level strategist. No one knew the headlines, no one knew the footage, no one knew she had once stood in the center of a corporate storm sparked by a single hugday moment. She worked, she delivered results, she went home alone. Daniel didn't call every night, not because he didn't want to, because both of them understood something fragile was being preserved. Distance had neutralized leverage. Evelyn hadn't liquidated her shares. The stock had stabilized. The board had quietly reinstated Daniel as acting CEO, pending final review of the ethics case, which, without public evidence of ongoing impropriety, was losing momentum. Strategically, the move had worked. Emotionally, it felt like slow erosion. 2 months passed. The divorce proceedings dragged. Evelyn negotiated with surgical precision. No screaming matches, no dramatic scenes in court corridors, just clauses, assets, protections, and the 6-month relationship restriction remained firmly embedded in the settlement draft. Daniel refused to remove it, not because he accepted it, but because he understood timing. If he pushed too hard, she could still destabilize the company. And for the first time in his career, he was learning patience. In Chicago, Olivia kept busy. But loneliness had texture. It showed up in quiet apartments, in dinners eaten without conversation, in the absence of someone who had once filled every mental space. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself it was strategy. But late at night, when the city wind rattled her windows, strategy felt hollow. On the first week of June, she received an email from New York headquarters. Subject: Executive Visit, Leadership Alignment Session. Daniel was coming to Chicago. Officially, it was corporate. Unofficially, it felt like something else. The conference room was crowded when he walked in. He looked the same, composed, focused, controlled. But when his eyes found hers across the table, something shifted, a quiet recognition that had survived distance.
The meeting was strictly professional: performance metrics, expansion plans, market projections. He never addressed her directly more than necessary. He never lingered. He never crossed the invisible boundary they had agreed to maintain. But tension doesn't require touch, it requires awareness, and awareness filled the room. After the session ended, employees filtered out in small groups. Olivia stayed behind to collect her notes. When the door closed, silence settled. He didn't approach her immediately. He stood by the window overlooking the Chicago River. "It suits you," he said finally. "What does?" "Standing on your own." She gave a small smile. "I was always standing." "Yes," he admitted, "but now no one questions it." The air between them felt charged, not with scandal, not with fear, with restraint. "How's New York?" she asked. "Stable. And Evelyn?" "The divorce will finalize in 4 weeks." 4 weeks. The number felt concrete. He turned toward her fully now. "I didn't come just for the meeting," she figured. "I came because I need to know something." She waited. "Did we pause or did we end?" he asked quietly. The question had been living between them for months. Olivia exhaled slowly. "We paused because ending felt like surrender. And now?" She walked closer but stopped short of touching him. "Now I need to know that if we start again, it's not rebellion, not reaction, not fallout." "It won't be." "How can you be sure?" His answer was steady. "Because I lost the one thing I thought defined me, control, and I survived it." That was new. He had always been strategic. Now he sounded human. That evening, Evelyn watched from a distance of her own, not physically, but through legal reports. Her attorneys had informed her that Daniel had refused to amend the clause, but had also refused to accelerate public exposure. He wasn't challenging her, he was waiting her out. She understood something then that unsettled her more than the hugday footage ever had. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was choosing independently, and that meant her leverage was weakening. For the first time in her career, she questioned whether forcing control had cost her something irretrievable. 4 weeks later, the divorce finalized quietly. No press conference, no dramatic leaks. A joint statement cited mutual separation and commitment to business continuity. The 6-month clause remained intact. Publicly, Daniel Carter was single. Privately, he remained careful. He didn't call Olivia that night. He waited 1 more day, and then he booked a flight. Back in New York, the board held a formal reinstatement vote, unanimous. The ethics complaint was closed with no findings of coercion or misconduct. Technically, the scandal was over, but the origin of it, that hugday moment, remained etched in memory. Daniel didn't return to the office immediately after the vote. Instead, he drove somewhere else. Olivia wasn't expecting him. It was late afternoon when her Chicago apartment buzzer rang. She glanced at the intercom. His voice came through, softer than she remembered. "Can I come up?" Her heart pounded the same way it had months ago, but this time there were no cameras, no clauses, no leverage, just choice. She let him in. When she opened the door, neither of them spoke for a long moment. The silence wasn't heavy, it was anticipatory. "It's done," he said quietly. "I know. The clause still stands for public relationships." She nodded. "But there's nothing restricting honesty." He stepped closer. "This time," he continued, "there's no risk assessment, no strategy, and no hiding." No hiding. They stood inches apart. He didn't reach for her immediately. He searched her face as if confirming something permanent. "Are you sure?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I've never been more sure." And then it happened. Not rushed, not desperate. He pulled her into his arms. A hug. Simple, steady, nothing like the hallway embrace that had ignited chaos. This one wasn't secret, it wasn't impulsive, it wasn't rebellion, it was intentional. Her cheek rested against his chest again, but this time there were no cameras watching, no wife standing in shadow, no board calculating risk, just 2 people who had survived power plays, distance, exposure, and choice. He held her a little tighter. "Happy Hug Day," he whispered softly, even though it was June. She laughed quietly against him. "We're a little late. Worth the wait." Outside, Chicago moved on like any other city. In New York, stock prices remained stable. Evelyn signed final settlement documents in a quiet office, her expression unreadable, not defeated, not triumphant, just changed. Power had shifted, not because someone won, but because control had loosened its grip. Inside the apartment, the hug didn't break quickly. It lingered, it deepened, and when they finally stepped apart, it wasn't uncertainty that filled the space. It was calm, the kind that comes after storms, the kind that doesn't need secrecy to survive. Hug Day started as a risk, it ended as a choice, and this time no one was watching. The end.